Hi everyone! Today Chris Jostin, our Estherville, Iowa terminal manager, is going to give you a tour of our brand new 2024 Kenworth T680 tractors. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and turn on our post notifications.
Okay, so here's our 2024 Next Gen Kenworth. You notice that our grill guard on this is a little bit different than on our Freightliners. This is actually a little bit easier to release. It's got a single lever right behind your main bar here. It's got a single lever here. You simply put your hand on the top rail, grab this lever, pull towards you, and it drops. In order to close it, you pick it up and just slam it. And there you go, open and shut. You notice we have a Cummins in these. In order to check our oil, we want to pull our dipstick right here, pull it out, make sure we're wiping it off. Now, if you look on that dipstick, you can see where your oil level is supposed to be. Make sure it's in the hash marks or in the full mark right there. If it's not, add oil. Remember, only check your oil when the engine is cold. Do not check it at the end of a long day of driving. If you do have to add oil, you want to add the oil right here. Here's where you check your power steering fluid. Right up here is where you're going to add your coolant. It's kind of hard to see, but in the back there we see our coolant reservoir. They've moved it on these newer trucks. And then down here we have our Davco filter. Now, once again, as stated in previous videos, if that fuel level gets up to this black line, or if any of those white filter elements are filled in with sludge or black slime or whatever, that's a good time to change this thing. Now we'll go over to the other side and I'll show you where our washer fluid is located and our hood latch. On this side of our engine compartment, we have our windshield washer fluid right here. Make sure that's always closed all the way. We also have a safety protective latch to keep this hood from falling down on you. If I were to try and close this hood right now, it wouldn't go. See, if you watch right here, it will not latch. So in order to close your hood, what you want to do is you want to reach right in here, pull that up towards you, then you go around and safely lower your hood. To access the batteries, you want to pull back on this lever here and you want to flip this step out. This is where your batteries are located at. And if you look here, this is the relay for your inverter inside the cab. If that inverter quits working, one of the very first things you want to do is you want to pop outside here and look and see that this is closed. If this switch is open like that, that means that it has tripped the breaker. So you can simply flip that switch back just like that and it should work from that point on. Okay, on our 2024 Kenworths, we have the blind spotter system from Bendix. This alerts us if there's anyone in our blind spot on the passenger side of our truck, in case we don't see them in the mirrors that are mounted on our doors or on our hood. Now this thing detects a vehicle 10 feet out and about 20 foot in front, 20 foot behind this little button right here. Remember, this does not replace you actually looking in your mirrors and being a safe driver. Today we're going to take a quick tour of the inside of our 2024 Kenworths and see what some of the switches and gauges do on our dash. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the dashboard of our 2024 Kenworths. As you notice, we have a digital dash and we have some analog gauges as well. Some of the things that we see on our digital dash here is up here we have our battery voltage. Here we have our primary and secondary air pressure. We have our oil pressure. We have our speedometer and our tach right here. Over here, this top line is our fuel, our bottom line is our DEF, and then we have our coolant temperature right there. On the bottom of your screen to the right, we see that we're in neutral right now. If I were to put this in drive, it would light up in drive on my dash. Same with reverse. Now, I have other displays that I can look at on this dashboard simply by pressing this button in the center of our steering wheel on the right side. If I scroll down, I can change the gauges that I'm looking at. See, now we have our oil temp, our torque, our boost. We still have our main gauges such as our air pressure, oil pressure, fuel, and all that. But then we also have our brake applied pressure and our air restrictions. If I scroll down again, I can customize to set up my favorites. Maybe there's a gauge that you would prefer to see that isn't already on there. So you just press this right in the center there, and then you pick what you want. So I'm going to put air restriction on there, and we're going to add it right there. Now it's on my dash. If I didn't like that one, I could take it off again just by pressing that button. Now to back out of that, you simply hit the X button on the right hand side of your steering wheel, and that gets you back out of there. Now me personally, I prefer as many gauges as possible while I'm driving, so I like it on this one right here. Now you also notice on your dash here, it looks like the hood of your truck. When you're driving down the road, your collision mitigation system is going to give you information here. It'll tell you your following distance and things like that. It'll also tell you if you go over the fog line or the zipper, it'll alert you which side, along with an audible alert, which side you went over. Now, if we look at some of the other things on our dashboard, we have our oil temp. We have our front drive axle temperature. We have our suspension load gauge. We have our boost gauge, our rear drive axle temperature, and our fuel filter restriction. We talked earlier about the Davco filter. If you see this gauge starting to come up, you'll notice that on that Davco filter, it's going to be showing some restriction as well. Now up here, this is where your hazards are. If you turn that on, that turns on your hazard lights. This is your park lights and your headlights. If you go stage 1 right there, that's just your park lights. It doesn't have your headlights on at all. It just has all your marker lights on. Then you turn it all the way up, and now your headlights are on. This switch here turns your clearance lights on top of your cab on and on top of your trailer. And then this is for your bunk light inside the cab. In order for all your lights to be on at night, both of these switches need to be all the way up. Now down here we have our temperature controls and our air conditioning and heating controls. And one of the nice features about the Kenworth is our automatic temperature. If we look here, I have it set at 68 degrees auto because I like it 68 degrees in my truck. Over here we see our fifth wheel release. In order for this to work, we have to flip that reg cover up, and then we lift and hold for 3 seconds until our fifth wheel is released. Now you notice that light came on underneath there and told us that that fifth wheel is now released. This is our differential lock. Once again, this is used in deep mud and deep snow. Do not ever engage that while your wheels are spinning. This is our suspension. If you flip that switch up, that drops your air suspension. We use that when we're hooking and unhooking from trailers. Over here is your park regen switch. You can run a manual regen, or you can disable a regen by using this switch. Here we have our hill start assist. This is a button that we would use when we're backing up. It seems to make it back up a lot easier now that we have the automatic transmissions, as if before you start moving, you flip that switch up, and on their dash you notice it says hill start assist disabled. Well, now when you're backing into a spot, it's not going to jump around as much. And then you simply flip that switch again when you're done backing. This switch here is your lane departure. This disables your lane departure so you don't hear the rumble strips when you're going through a construction zone, or if your lanes are kind of moving to the left and the right like they sometimes do. You can disable that using this switch for 15 minutes. Here's your traction control. If you flip this switch, it disables your traction control. Flip it again and it re-enables it. Now on your steering column here, this stalk here is your transmission selector. It's also your engine brake. So in order to put it in drive, you simply rotate it forward. The middle is neutral. R stands for reverse, not race. And then your engine brake, you simply pull it down one. There's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 of your engine brakes. On your steering wheel, we also have our cruise control. Right here, you turn your cruise control on. You press up here to set it, and here's to resume. On the right side of our truck there, on the A-pillar, we see that little yellow light. That's for your Bendix blind spotter system to alert you if there's anything in your blind spot beside you. Remember, as I told you before, that's going to see some things that your mirrors may not catch, but it does not replace a safe, quality driver. If there was something in your blind spot, that yellow light would turn to red and it would alert you with an audible beep as well. Okay, so here we have the APU controls in our Kenworth. You notice they're the exact same controls as what we have in our Freightliner. As far as the other buttons and knobs in here that you see, they're a little bit different than the Freightliner. We have our air conditioning and heating controls for when the truck is driving down the road. We have a lock button, so we could press that. If you forget to lock it when you go to bed, you could press that and lock your doors at night. And then this button here shuts off your bunk lights and turns them back on. That's pretty much all the controls for inside the sleeper of our trucks. This concludes the tour of our 2024 Kenworth. If you have any questions what any of the gauges, the switches, the knobs do, please contact your maintenance or safety department and we'd be glad to come out and go through them with you once again. Thank you and stay safe out there.